War might begin when you want, but it does not end when you please. No better example of that than a war that took over 100 fucking years and helped to shape the fabric of Europe in the process. But how? Come on, I'll show you. Now to catch us up, this war is between England and France. See, a long time ago in the year 1066, this guy, William, jumped from the northern part of France and invaded England, successfully. There he set up French rule for the next 300 years. I'll fast forward a couple of hundred years and we're in a bit of a pickle. Because in 1328, this guy, Charles IV, goes kaput without a male heir. And there's not exactly a clear line of succession. Because you see, Charles has a sister, Isabella, and her son Edward III is currently hanging out in England. So Isabella says, sure, I can't be king because misogyny is a thing, but I can pass that title down to my son. French nobility does not like the idea of somebody not even born in France ruling. They claim that Philip of Valois, a cousin of Charles, is the rightful heir. Initially, Edward III says okay and pays homage to the new king. And then he says, wait a second, fuck that. The 100 Years' War is on. We're not going to get too far into the weeds here because this war is a whole series on its own. Raging off and on for 116 years, this is going to have profound effects on the continent. And some ridiculous fucking stories. Today we'll look at the first phase of the war, or the Edwardian phase. So eventually the English hop the channel in a reverse Norman conquest. And then they're going to pillage their way across northern France. This is effective for so many reasons. One, supplying an invading army is always going to be an issue. Living off the land, at least in the short term, becomes a necessity. Not only that, it terrorizes the local population. Do you go seeking help from the king? Now he's forced to deal with the invading army on its terms. Traditionally, the army moves in 3 columns. Not only this way is it speedier, but everybody can get the necessities that they need, instead of those at the end being shit out of luck. But it also means your path of destruction is that much wider. Now, the first major conflict of the war is the Battle of Crécy, or maybe Cressy, without a horrible attempt at an accent. Anyway, the French are going to outnumber the English since, the battle's in France. But the English are able to establish a defensive position, and it's on higher ground. One of the rules of thumb I have heard is you need about a 3-to-1 advantage if you are attacking a defensive position. So in this case, numbers are just about even. Besides being in a fortified position, the English are going to have a distinct advantage through the entire war. That is the longbow. So yes, the crossbow has been invented by this point. While it might be accurate, it is slow to load, averaging about 2 shots a minute. Longbow, on the other hand, is a fucking beast. The bow itself is 6 feet long, hence the name, longbow. But the arrows these fuckers shoot, they're 3 feet long. You're shooting a yardstick with a knife on the end of it at me. These yardsticks of death can travel up to 300 yards. That's 3 football fields to give you some perspective. Supposedly under 200 yards you weren't supposed to miss. And skilled archers could fire 10 to 12 shots a minute. And have your crossbow. That's cute. The guys that shot these things weren't pussies either. Do you know how strong you have to be to pull back a 6-foot bow that is able to shoot a yardstick 3 football fields repeatedly? These guys are so jacked they fuck up their skeletons. It's like that dude in that one M. Night Shyamalan movie that nobody ever saw, Lady in the Water, that only worked out the right side of his body. Only this was real life, instead of an M. Night Shyamalan movie that nobody ever saw. But wait, there's more. The English brought some friends to the party, in this case, the Scotch. This battle goes on all day and into the night. French crossbowmen are forced off the field by the English longbows. As they retreat, the French mount a cavalry charge. But it's all confused and disorganized and slowed down by the retreating crossbowmen. And the field's all muddy now and they're attacking uphill. The crossbowmen are doing their thing. But the French philosophy around war is based on this idea of élan, or fighting spirit. Having more audacity than the other side is often the key to victory. And yes, I know he wasn't French, but it's a good example of the spirit of the time. John of Bohemia, who's fighting on the side of the French, gets led into battle. Now, apart from maybe it not being a great idea for rulers to go into battle in the first place, what makes this exceptional is the motherfucker's blind. He says, yo homies, lead me into battle. And they said, excuse me sir, aren't you a little, blind? And he said, not a problem. Tie your horses to mine and charge. Well, obviously he was not very successful, but he's got the spirit. Anyway, after a long day of seeing who had more élan, there was a lot of wounded men on the field. This is where the Scottish come in. English might have had a longbow, but the Scottish have a long knife called the dirk. Their job was to go through the battlefield that night and dirk the shit out of any wounded French knights, so they wouldn't be wounded anymore. This is a huge deal for a couple of reasons. And the English are using people to fight for them that are not knights. This idea of the peasant finding armor and somehow training and then one day becoming a knight is absolute fantasy. Because a knight was not a job that you had. It was a class of people. Not just anyone could be a knight. It was a special class you had to be born into. This way, a small group of people can control the monopoly on violence. You can't just have anyone who wants to playing dress up and swinging around a sword. So the fact that these people are being used in battle to fight the knightly class, that's a big break from the norm. And then these non-knightly people have the audacity to go in there and dirk wounded knights. The audacity. Also horribly effective. So who cares? It's just one battle. It's also starting to tug at the threads that have held our society together. If you shatter the illusion that the warrior class is not a select group of people, what's next? Anyway, sorry, we only got to one battle. What can I say? I'm slow.